just igniting the whole carbon rod. And it was all just this real Frankenstein, like literally I made a switch by hand with a big copper bar that was like this big around, and it was like a copper bar and then a pair of copper contacts, because we didn't want to destroy the arc welding. We didn't want to destroy the breaker in the wall when we turned the arc welder on and off a lot. So it built a Frankenstein switch. And there was a lot of other, like Lucky, this other guy in the group had this thing where he was using hydrogen as the working gas. And so he had like hydrogen going through this homemade cell with all these garbage bags around it. So,
oh my God.
So if the hydrogen leaked, it would go into the garbage bag, and then I guess he had like argon flowing through it to try to make it less. It's actually it reminds me so much of what Nature Jab is doing, because it was the same kind of like, oh, you know what? I'll just keep flowing more argon and then hopefully I won't explode. And it was the same mindset. So lucky, yeah. So Masa comes from that group. He got his PhD from that group. And so I feel like he's definitely somebody who should connect with all this explodey trash magic stuff.
Yes.
Definitely.
The mother of my daughter's in Gainesville, which is about 2 hours from Orlando.
Gainesville's on the coast, right?
Middle.
It's always in the middle. Okay,
yeah.
Also. I'm thinking of Tallahassee. Tallahassee's on the coast.
Yes.
Gainesville's interior.
Yes. Tallahassee is north, near the Panhandle area.
Yes.
The pit, the arm, yeah.
On the Gulf side.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, in the spirit of multitasking, that's why I'm doing his hair right now.
Yeah. Holy crap! What time is your flight?
It's tonight. We have to be there at 6:30. Preferably at 6 because I have a bag to check. But it's ridiculous, Leif. Like, I can't take a flight tomorrow because I leave out of Portland, because the flights that leave here arrive 30 minutes after all the flights leave Portland. I'm just like,
Portland like sends a flight or sends a fleet all over the entire country and then lets its regional flights in. It makes no sense.
This is a Portland quirk.
I wonder if it is, or if it's like if a lot of areas, like metropolitan areas, do this in order to like it's like a profit thing, right? Like if he has to wait, he has to spend more money at the airport.
Yep.
Yeah, I see what you mean. But I haven't had that problem in like, so I know when I've had to fly like US Air and TWA both do the regional thing in the East Coast, where because I used to sometimes fly out of like shitty little Connecticut regional airports, and so then they force you to go to like Philly or Cincinnati usually.
Yeah.
And both of which are terrible, but they're not that terrible. Like you just get stuck in the Philly airport for like 2 hours. It wasn't like they made you stay there overnight.
Oh yeah, he's sleeping there tonight.
Yeah, that sucks.
Bullshit. We were like deliberating.
There's no train, of course.
Yeah.
Or like no useful train.
No, none.
Yeah, because that's finally what I started doing in Connecticut. Is I just took the train to New York. I was like, the train is a lot slower than flying, but if I take the train, then I'm getting flights from LaGuardia and JFK and Newark, which between the three of them fly everywhere. So then there's no, because they've got you over a barrel in Portland. If you don't like it, you're fucked. It's just PDX. Whereas
it was the same way for Madison and O'Hare. Like I could fly out of Madison and I would almost always have a layover somewhere, or I could take a bus to O'Hare and fly out of O'Hare anytime.
Yeah. It's when they know, I see, because you're stranded there. In the East Coast, like if they pissed you off enough, it's not, I mean, you can just take a train to Philly from New York if you really have to. It's not like out west. Where,
the West has no public transport.
No.
I mean, Amtrak on the East Coast sucks too, but it doesn't suck like the West Coast. At least you can do it.
Yeah, Amtrak on the West Coast is buses.
Yeah.
Greyhound.
Right. That's horrible. Yeah.
I kind of saw your message. So for some reason,
the message is blowing up. We're behind.
We're very behind because for some reason only this morning did those 59 messages come through on the trash group. So
I think that was actually just all this morning. I don't think those were like, it just like was dead for a long time, and then Kai and just like a few people all got really worked up about composting at the same time. I think all of those messages you saw actually were from like after this morning.
Oh,
okay,
okay.
great.
Good.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was
See
just
a
this
little
morning.
bit about a library on a recycle phone. Like, let's chat about that. That sounds awesome. I have a whole bunch of resources for banned book lists. Like,
you do.
I do. I
Okay,
reached
great.
out to a friend here locally, and she gave me a whole bunch of sources for like
Yeah.
Oregon lists and like in general. It's going to be pretty similar in a lot of these small towns. It's like the libraries are banning all of the LGBTQ stuff.
Yeah.
Which.
But that's just such a fucking opportunity, though. I hate to say it like that, but it's because once you get kids and you're like, hey, come on, we've got the banned books about like transgender health or whatever. But then, you know, you can have Harry Potter fanfic that like smashes the J.K. Rowling. Like, this is another way to. We were talking about this on Instagram about like the way to destroy J.K. Rowling is to create this just flood the network with non-copyrighted, you know, wizard school fanfic. And if the quantity of non-copyrighted wizard school fanfic is large enough, you just flood the network, and then nobody wants to read Harry Potter anymore because like everybody's got so there's like so many layers, because if it's PDFs are so small. If you've got a gigabyte, you know, and you can do it on a Windows. Last night I did a walkthrough with somebody of the pie crust, and I've got some things I solved after that were like a little bit awkward, but I think this is really, I made another version after last night. Instead of pie crust, I'm calling it the crust web. So it's like you don't have to even think about Raspberry Pis, because the Raspberry Pi is a whole tech thing. If like, I just didn't really appreciate when you do something on Windows, Mac, and Android and iOS, like it's not 100 times better than doing it on the Pi. It's like 1,000,000 times better than doing it on the Pi, because like no one cares about the Raspberry Pi in society at large. And I don't think I totally appreciated that. And and simplifying this to the point that it's just like this really simple thing, you can run it on if you can run it on your laptop, and it's fast to install, and it's got just anything that gets people to care, then I feel like it could just go. It can go. It's almost ready to start replicating, and I want to make that happen because all of our code replicates along with it. If this is the means by which almost all anybody does is share PDFs, and those PDFs are just a bunch of banned books that we find illegal copies of somewhere, that gets the system to replicate, but the system has all this other code on it. It has like Geometron code on the web thing, and then the web thing also has links to W3 schools where people can go learn HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and PHP. So only a few people will do that, but every single instance has the link that says, go learn how to code on the web. And if like 0.1% goes and does that, then all you have to do is get like large numbers of people to copy the whole system, and that 0.1% will see that, and they'll click on it, and then the code will start to fork, and then it's alive. So and then connect to the cardboard. And I'm simplifying the cardboard too. Like at some point I've got these boxes and then the cards and the squares, and I'm more and more, I want to just have like a piece of, because the other thing is if you just have a cardboard sign, then you're not, it's so simple. Like people can take a piece of trash and I just take this piece of Sharpie and just go into a city, just grab a piece of cardboard, write on it, and stand on the side of the road with the cardboard sign. And that if you can use a cardboard sign on the side of the road to replicate code from a GitHub repository onto people's local computers, and that replicates media, then you have this set that includes physical cardboard, you know, and it all links. Web pages on the Web 1.0, like the other thing is the Web 1.0 stuff is I'm trying to ramp up. So there's like the watershed network and the street network. So there's like different streets and watersheds. I've got these domains that can be used to link to the local servers. So that can be, say, come to this coffee shop Saturday afternoon and then click on this link once you get on the Wi-Fi, and it has instructions for how to get on the Wi-Fi, and that gets people there to the server. And if it's banned books, people will do it. You'd be like, yeah, you know, go down to this like LGBTQ friendly coffee shop, get on the Wi-Fi. You don't even have to get it. You don't have to go into the shop. You can like hang out outside, get on the Wi-Fi, and you're going to see all the books, and people can post ads to it. And if people can post ads to it, it'll support itself, because the banned book, if the banned books get people in the door, then you start out with free ads for anybody who's doing community resources. And then you'd be like, yeah, if you want to do goods and services, you know, you just run a network where you're like, we'll take, you know, we'll advertise anything from the community for free, but if you want to donate resources, then that's appreciated, and you can post ads.
Right.
And then you end up like nucleating these physical locations that bring in people who are trying to form community with one another.
Yep.
You know, and that's how you build these networks that are physical, because you have to go down to that physical location, even though you might not be there at the same time giving each other COVID, because you're both going to the same physical location. You can like drop things off and pick it up, and you know there's going to be somebody there you can trust with stuff because somebody's running the server. So it's a way that even in a rural area where people got to drive an hour to get into the one like LGBTQ friendly coffee shop, they can just like skulk outside on their Android phone and get all the files and connect with the people. And that's, I mean, that's wild. You know, you can have people in a rural area connecting without the cloud at all.
Yes. And that's what we want
from the cloud.
I think for this week, something you said just triggered the word ecosystem for me. So I know that's what you're essentially building, is the trash magic ecosystem. Right. And that's a very top level view. So we would do well to spend some time developing that and just developing it, and have with each item in the ecosystem an end goal to finish so that we can move on, because simultaneously we also have to develop TrashCon as well and make that a thing. So I think having those two as our focus. I just want to get something replicating anything. And it is like I've been doing a couple of things. So like last night we replicated Picross, and then I did the class, which we managed to replicate the cube, and y'all have been replicating.
We are trying to get the robot into high school here. Like we're trying to get like the whole system. People were so excited about Wendy the robot, and guaranteed these schools have a fucking surplus of towers that have, I mean, even if like just take out the drives. So we're trying to get that replicating. That might be something that
maybe talk to the high school physics teacher. If I could make a connection directly with the high school either physics teacher, or like now I think sometimes they have like STEM or robotics teacher, you know, whoever those faculty are, if we can connect with them.
Is who we're connecting to. So we'll get them connected directly with you guys.
Let's set up a meeting with them, and then I can, you know, introduce myself and say like, I do all this wacky stuff, but I am a legit, you know, physics PhD, and I'm happy to be like sort of a legitimate academic, like, because what I'm trying to really do, like personally, what I'm trying to do with all this is get an academic position. I want to get into academia. That's where I think I want to. And so that's from high school people. I think they like that kind of connection, you know, because I can like write. If I work with kids, I can write letters of reference for them for college, and that helps them get into college. I have a Yale PhD. I have a lot of experience working with these kinds of kids and getting them into college and stuff like that. So I think that making, like, if I talk to the teachers at the high school and start to build sort of a real network there, I think that can be something they might respond well to.
Cool. That's something that we're reaching out on, because it also like is parallel with our recycling thing. So as I make those connections, I will put you directly in touch as well.
Excellent. That's fantastic. Yeah. And I can just teach online classes. I mean, you know, if there's interest, I know online teaching is a thing. I would be more than happy to just start teaching online classes in high school and figure out where and how to do that, and then just doing it. So
hell yes.
that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to like become an academic. I'm quitting my academic job doing bullshit. And my goal is somehow over the next year with all these different things and trash con and all the different trash robot magic, whatever, you get in academia. And so I think working with high school people is very much, I think of that as broadly part of that. We're trying to build something that's like going to be part of academia, but different.
Yes.
But also it's the perfect time because we're seeing within academia, and I mean, especially at the lower level, whether it be the grade school or the junior high level, we're seeing like these pods break out. We're seeing really like alternate school models breaking out. So I think now is a better time than ever for trash magic to get in there, because you're going to have all of these kind of like unsanctioned schools who need curriculum, and you're offering curriculum that people already have in their garage.
Right. And this is the thing. I mean, this, what's been happening in the schools is crazy. So like I go to this karate school next door, and when they went to all online schooling in the local school system here, he was running a school. He had kids who were getting dropped off at the karate school at 8 o'clock in the morning and being there until 3 o'clock in the afternoon at the karate school all day. Like that's where they went to school, because the parents still had to go to work and they were being told it's all like off, online schooling or whatever, but they don't have the ability to be, like a lot of the parents are people with very high income, but no time. So they just pay like $4,000, I don't know what it was, thousands of dollars a month to the karate school to just be all day, every day, 5 days a week, actual school. So he said it was terrible. He had to deal with constant Zoom, the Zoom stuff is broken all the time. The online stuff is broken all the time. But it's still karate school. Like when there was any extra time, they're still like doing karate related activities.
Wow.
So it's this weird situation where a guy who ran a karate school for 20 years was suddenly like basically running an elementary school with 4 students.
Wow.
And so, that's a thing for K through 12. And then with higher ed,
we had a lot of homeschoolers come up to us at the fair being like, we would love to teach our kids about trash magic because they get to learn about STEM, they get to learn about programming, recycling, robotics.
We can have kids writing books. I mean, we could build a whole curriculum. You could have, if you work with writing teachers, we can teach kids how to like publish their own books and format them using LaTeX and get them onto Lulu Press and like,
oh my God,
we can do history, we can build an entire curriculum. And I think that, to me, this is very exciting, because this is why I say I want to go into academia, but in this really weird way, because academia it's all broken. Everything is like K through 12 education is broken. Higher ed is crazy, expecting these kids to go into like infinite amounts of debt for a degree that's never been worth less than it is today. It's nutty. It's crazy. And then they fly halfway across the country to be in a really unsafe environment in a campus. For what? So that you can get like access to these supposedly powerful alumni networks, but then like if you don't, then you're fucked. And it's it's time for a very radical change. And I think getting involved in all of these campuses. Are you connected to the University of Oregon at all? Did you either of you go there or anything?
Nope, not at all.
I was reading about on Wikipedia, and the relationship between that university and Nike is totally bizarre.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like
Bill Knight has given them.
Founders of Nike is right there.
It's really weird. It's worth reading about because it's super weird. It's like billions of dollars that Phil Knight has personally put into their athletics program, but the state has starved the university. So you have a situation where like the running shoe billionaire is really in many ways bankrolling the university.
That's ridiculous.
That's insanity.
Yeah.
It's really weird. But I think also kind of typical. Like we have that with Johns Hopkins and Mike Bloomberg. Mike Bloomberg, every time he just decides something sounds like a good idea, he writes another several $100 million check to Hopkins as like his little personal whatever university. And it's all part of this oligarchy system.
Exactly. We don't have oligarchs in the United States. We just have lobbyists.
Yeah. So, anyway, so I guess, I don't know. Had you guys installed the pie crust on one of your laptops that is not a Raspberry Pi before?
It was not successful. Right?
Yeah, it was not successful. I have to try again, different way.
What went wrong? Do you remember?
You did it on Mercury and you had to partition the hard drive, right?
Yes. So this, I think it's just because this computer is slightly old. It was running Windows 8.1.
Okay. It wasn't Windows 10.
Yeah. So I have to. What I'm going to do is uninstall everything and just install Linux, and then try it like that.
Oh, well, if you're going to do Linux, then you can just run Apache.
Okay.
Yeah, I see. That's more advanced. I mean, that's great. Running Apache is great, but the thing that interests me about Windows is that that's what a lot of people have.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
This,
yeah,
this Windows is like so shitty. 8.1 is just so shitty.
yeah.
Oh man. And I know that it sounds terrible, but XP was the best Windows because it was the most stable.
Yeah, I can believe that.
98 or something like that.
That was the peak. Yeah.
Equal.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the next step is. I think, you know what I think the next step is I'm going to put up another class for one of those things that people can sign up for on Eventbrite and then just do walkthroughs. And then I think maybe that's the next thing that I'm going to do here instead of crafts.
How did your class go? How'd you enjoy that?
That was great. It was just the one person who came. I'm psyched from TikTok. And I couldn't see the camera. So I had to sort of like, they could see me, but I couldn't see them. But I think we went through so that was a little tricky because it was like crafting. So I was showing the craft, but I couldn't see the craft. But as far as they said, they copy it, Right. So I think it was successful. I think we had a replication of the cube, and I think it was fun. I learned the very important fact that we can use scissors. We don't even need a box cutter. I just use scissors.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Yeah. So that was a huge breakthrough, and that was her idea. She was like, "Hey, do I really need a box cutter? Or can I use scissors?" And I was like, and then I tried it, and it turns out you can use scissors, and it's amazingly easier. It's like everything is much faster with scissors. It's just, it's like using the CO2 laser. It's really fast.
Yes.
So so the scissors are a huge breakthrough, and then that turned out to be pretty easy. So yeah, I think that was cool. And I'm going to do more of that at some point. But right now, at the moment, this changing from pie crust to just trying to do everything on Windows and Mac and Android, I think is what I want to focus on. I think I'm going to see if I can get somebody else to go through that class. So then last night I went through and did the tutorial with Take My Knife from TikTok, or Audi, also on Discord. She was on there, and that's why I was super excited this morning, because last night, because she's not a tech person with no tech background, and it worked. It was live. So it's like, then she was able to like use the QR, put in the IP address, and then use the QR code to go from the laptop to the iPhone. And that worked. Like, she was able to like drop images and media into the folders and then see it on the iPhone from the QR code. So there were a couple things that were kind of like a little bit, there were a little bit of wrinkles. And so I fixed those in the version I just rewrote, like right before this call. I spent like the last 2 hours rewriting and replacing pie crust with crust web, so that there's no pie. And it's just the like, I think we finally eliminated, like, there's no Arduino, there's no Raspberry Pi, there's no crafts, there's no, it's just maybe a social media that can actually replicate the banned books. So yeah, maybe that's what I should do, is I should try to do a class on banned books and then try to solicit people. If you have a list, if you can find people with PDFs, and we can do it over email. Just email me lists, and then email me PDFs. And then if people sign up for the class, I can email them PDFs, and we can just do it all. Nothing ever is on the web, but we email each other. And then when people sign up on the whatever that thing is.
Eventbrite?
Eventbrite. They sign up with their email. Everybody they
Yeah.
have to put in an email to sign up. So we can use the Eventbrite to get email chains going with all the PDFs.
Okay.
And then those can go in each copy. And then all we have to do is keep telling people about it until somebody signs up who is the right person, who's like the owner of a LGBT coffee shop in some rural area, who's like a total regional hub. When that person signs up, then it goes.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's the trick.
Yes,
So
yes.
I think that might be the next step. I want to get, like, my belief is that of all the things, because we're trying to replicate all these things, we're trying to replicate, like you said, there's a lot of threads. There's like robots and social things and crafts and all this stuff. But the world that we live in, I believe that if you can take a piece of computer code that you wrote and get it to copy, you can do anything. Like that fundamentally, if you look at like blockchain and all these different stupid things that blow up, machine learning or whatever different, like trends in computing or social media, anything that a lot of people copy the code of has power. And so that's why I keep shifting between these different things. Whatever I think is most likely to copy, I'm going to put all of my efforts into, even if it temporarily starves other things of attention. Because once we achieve replication, then we can do then we get people. And once we have people, then instead of the three of us and now like maybe a couple other people trying, once there's like a lot of people,
Yes.
then it becomes so much easier. Once there's lots of people, then none of us, then the people who are thinking about like how to do distillation of different weights of oil are all like chemical engineering PhD students. And the people trying to figure out how to get the Linux configured are all like professional Linux code hackers who have done this for 20 years. Right. Once we have bodies, then all of this stuff gets to the point that like an expert is able to be deployed to do the thing.
That's what I was telling Karma last night. Hopefully one of these connections with the kids at the high school, you got a really smart kid who understands coding. What can they do with that? What next level project can they conceive of?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where like helping kids, we can do curriculum development, but we can also do project-based learning with kids. That's what I did with my interns before. They can do the science fair. I don't know anything about science fair. I did nothing. These kids, I worked with them on the technical side, but I had no idea how the science fair works. They went and figured out how to sign up for the science fair. They signed up for the science fair. They turned the project into a presentation. They submitted it, and then they won the science fair or whatever. And you can do that if you have a really good project and you find the right kids, and they have, because their teachers will help them get the paperwork together. So they've got the teacher to help them with the paperwork, and then if you could get a really creative project like this trash stuff, then they'll just get awards and stuff. And that gets attention. If you can get the kids to get awards, then that brings in, they can get press for that, which can bring in attention, bring in money, and then it can make stuff happen, I think.
Did we meet last Thursday or Friday?
I don't remember.
I think it was
August. During fair? It was during fair, wasn't it?
It was during fair. It was the 11th.
Yeah,
August.
I don't know.
So did we tell you that she won blue ribbons and all that? Did we say
that? I don't think so. Yeah, no, I didn't talk until after.
Wendy won People's Choice Award and most creative in her category, and she was a fucking hit. Yeah. Everybody wanted a Wendy art.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was. She got a blue ribbon, and that other ribbon
County
too.
Fair. This is very
County Fair. Yeah, so Trash Robot is a winner, dude.
Yeah.
That's amazing. This is
Trash
fantastic. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, award-winning robot.
This is fantastic.
And the other thing was that I sent you a little video of it. So we made that game from the business cards.
Right, yes.
So it was, I had this idea of like Trash Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'd get in trouble if we actually use that.
Yeah, that sounds like a cease and desist letter. For sure.
But it was like Uno and what's the other one?
Kind of like War. Kind of like Go Fish.
Kind of like Go Fish.
And Magic the Gathering. Pokemon is another war game like that.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
It
really...
was fun, and like it'd be so easy to, like you said, to just make any game.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's what we're doing. We put an icon at the top, an icon at the bottom,
Yeah.
and then the icon represents, you know, like, oh,
You
minus...
just gave it a value.
just gave it a value. So in Magic the Gathering, you start out with 20 hit points, and depending on which cards you draw out, you take away hit points from the other player. So we were doing that, and Michael's really good at card games. She's all played them.
My family plays.
Yeah.
He's never
Right,
played.
you
I'm
grew
not
up with
really good. I just play
Yeah.
card games.
Yeah,
So the
sure.
strategy could either you could win by either getting rid of all of your cards or depleting the other person's hit points. So I took him through on schooling on the different strategies on how you could win or
Yeah.
lose.
And some cards give you hit points or cancel out hit points or make you shuffle the graveyard, the discard pile,
Right.
because that's where you're going to draw. You can. There's a card that allows you to, just like in Magic the Gathering, pick up a card from the discard pile.
So
And we
one
also
thing that
had-
occurs to me is if we're trying to get the game to be more integrated into physical spaces, you
Yes.
can have cards effect depend on where you are, where you play the card. So you can have a card that only plays in like either the north side of town, the south side of town, or like in a library. Like
Fuck
if you're
yeah!
if you're
I
on a
really-
Wi-Fi, like you have to be able to be in range of a Wi-Fi in order for a card to work. Like the
Yeah.
activation of cards can be linked to physical spaces, and that's just an obvious thing that a player can see. Like, where are we? Are we on south side or north side, or like east side or west side, and stuff like that? You can activate, and that, if you have cards that are activated by physical spaces, can create a physical economy, because you have a situation where like you're trading cards to get
People
you know,
have
around.
to go to that place to trade a card.
Yeah. And then
I love that. That kind of ties into a rule that I came up with at the end, or not a rule, but just a condition. Because in your hand you have 3 cards, and out of the 3 you can slam them down. But if you get the trifecta, these 3 cards have a specific effect. So
That in addition to a location card, that'd be really fun.
yeah.
Be really fun. Yeah, love it, Leif.
Yeah, that's a big part of what I want to do with all of the trash media, is to have it be a form of augmented reality. You know, the tech people are always blathering about augmented reality. You're going to have these little, you know, like Pokemon Go, where it's like, hey, Pokemon Go, the game says that there's a Pokemon in, you know, 500 feet to the northeast of such and such a bus stop or something. Well, you can just take a piece of cardboard and write some word on it with a Sharpie and put it in that location. And it does the same thing as what those Pokemon Go people do. You just don't need the cloud. You can do augmented reality with Sharpies and cardboard.
Yes.
And I think that's really interesting and very underutilized. And I think, like, you know, it's like the hobo, the tradition of like putting a squat marker or something like that. But those are traditionally done with something permanent, like a spray paint. But if you have pieces of cardboard, then they can just move around from one place to another, and you have this it's augmented reality. It's dynamic augmented reality, because anybody can take a Sharpie and just like write on a piece of cardboard and put it in a place. Once that becomes a thing, who knows where it's going to go. It's a meta game. I mean, you can use that to do anything. You can use it for commerce.
Yes.
In the end, I've been thinking this since the beginning of this project, like all these complex things, building cubes and robots and all this other complicated technology. I feel like we'll know it really works when it actually is just a cardboard sign. Like when the cardboard sign can replicate. I still want to do all the other complicated stuff, but when this is replicating as fast as I want it to be replicating, it should literally be a cardboard sign and an Android burner phone, because then it can start to replicate out on the street without any property. And then that'll carry along all of our clever inventions with it. But that's the thing that just is just going to freaking go, I think, because a cardboard sign is a pretty simple technology and very widespread.
Did we tell you about the scrap yard guy that we found?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Did you manage to get him in touch with comrade Alloy.
We haven't been able to get in contact with him at all. We
Him directly.
him,
We've been over to his place.
yeah, we went to the scrapyard itself, and it is like a freaking, I don't know, Willy Wonka factory there.
Oh,
There's
nice.
so much everywhere. Motors everywhere. Lawn mowers.
Yeah.
Just
He was
everything.
going crazy. We were going crazy.
Yeah,
it was
that's
fun.
awesome.
Yeah.
And he has a whole, I think I told you this, a whole 55-gallon drums of disk drives and optical drives.
Yeah.
So we're going to be set for a while.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
All right. So let's, I mean, well, the thing we talked about before that I want to keep pulling on the thread is trying to figure out how to get a link between the high school teachers
Mhm.
and the sort, because if we can get the high school kids building the robots, the high school teachers doing the paperwork to make sure they all get winning the science fair or whatever, and then connect that with the disk drive guy,
Yes.
then you start to build a factory.
Yes. That's exactly what we're hoping.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I want to replicate it all in Denver. When I get to Denver, there are scrap metal people in Denver, of course, and I want to try to go see if I can talk to the scrap metal people there and the high school teachers there, and then try to replicate what you're building there, and then try to replicate it in Wisconsin and other places as well. Hopefully,
Yes.
maybe New York.
All the places.
All the places, but starting with places where we know people. So this is all very exciting. Let's see, what time is it? It's like
Yeah,
3:45.
we gotta go soon because I gotta
You gotta do
pack up.
stuff.
Or not
Yeah.
pack up, but finish up.
He's just
Yeah.
saying whatever he says because his head hurts.
My head hurts so
Do you
bad.
want? Do you have a headache?
Oh no, I'm pulling on his hair.
Oh, okay, that kind of head hurt. Good.
In order to tighten the dreads, you have to kind of like ratchet it down. You're crocheting. She's crocheting my hair, and so at the base of the dread, there's a little eyelet, and you have to twist the hair first, and then pass the needle through that base, and the tail of the dread gets passed through there, and that tightens it down. Oh god.
So it tightens his whole head, his whole scalp.
Yeah.
I think you're good.
Oh my goodness. All right.
Yeah.
The
It
sacrifice
hurts,
of
but
beauty.
pain makes me beautiful, as they say.
Yeah.
I kind of envy you though, Leif. You just got a nice simple. Just look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I had a roommate who was a shaved head guy, and then he taught me to do it, and then I just never stopped because I actually kind of had like, there's like the Jewish guy matted dread thing. I had like dread mats when I was in high school, like just like short, sort of sticking it in all directions, sort of dread mats that went boing, 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 and it was kind of a mess. I just didn't really shower enough, and I had like a big Jufro when I was a little kid. I had like a spherical blonde Jufro, and then that turned into these weird gnarly mats when I became a dirty skateboarder, and then in college I shaved it all off. When I was like 19, I started shaving it off, and I've been shaving since I was about 19. Well, for the most part, shaving.
Nice.
Never went back.
So yeah. Okay, so good luck with your trip. Should I put you in touch with Masa? Do you want to like get coffee with Masa or something? Is that weird? Are you gonna be super busy?
I have 2 extra days because I added 2 extra days to my trip. So yes, I'm gonna say yes.
Okay, I'll just at least put you in touch. And
Yes.
then, I don't know how busy Masa is, but I know I'm really optimistic because he sent an email about how he's considering trying to do things besides professor things. So that's always a good sign. So he had a really scary health scare a few years back with a kidney thing that was really serious. And so then he like had to get a kidney transplant and his kidney shut down and everything. So he had one of those like health scares, but then now like he's kind of moved past that and is thinking about getting into interesting, weird stuff. So I think connecting, I'll connect you on email, and then you can just see if you have time, and probably you won't have time, but he's pretty close to UCF. I don't actually know exactly where he lives, but he works at UCF and I think lives pretty close to that. So,
okay, perfect.
For whatever that's worth.
Right.
Good talking to you as always.
Yeah, as always. It's all very exciting, and I'll be posting on TikTok with the schedule of the classes when that comes.
Okay.
Awesome.
Perfect. And I'll post this up tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah. Awesome.
I'll be at the hotel.
All right. All right, take it
Bye.
easy.
Bye.
Good night.